Hello guys, in this video I will be showing how to install a 2-node 11G R2 Oracle Rac database. So I will be using this operating system to create a clone of Rac machines. This operating system virtual machine I have created in one of my previous video. If you haven't watched it, then it's just you can go there and refer to the video how I created it. For now this is just a virtual machine in which an OEL 5.8 has been installed. So I will be using this virtual machine to create a clone of Rac instances. So before you start it, make sure that just to manage it properly, I have created a folder called Rac 78. Inside that I have created ASM 78, and make sure that your file preference is set to the correct folder. So you should set Rac 78 over here. When you are ready, you can start the cloning. Name it as Rac 7. Next, full clone. Cloning will take around 4 to 5 minutes. I will pause the video. So once you are done with the cloning, the next thing that I will be doing is creating an ASM storage. So what we are going to do is we will be creating 3 ASM disks. Those will be the raw disk, and we will be converting those raw disk into ASM disk. So I'll click on storage, create new disk, VDI. Make sure that you select the fixed size. Next, it has ASM 78 disk 1 GB is enough for us. Great. We'll create 2 more. Disk 2. Disk 3. So this is my Rac 7 machine disk. These 3 are my raw disk created for ASM. In addition to that, for my own preference, what I have done is I have already created one VDI file, and I have stored all the software into it. So you need not to follow this. This is only for my system. I will be removing this guest edition, and I will be creating an empty one. Okay. So this is my storage is configured. Next I will go to network. You must be aware, like in Rac we are having 2 types of network. One is public network and one is private network. So I will be creating 2 adapters over here. So make sure you put it as a bridged network. Go to advanced, make allow all, make it bridged, advanced, allow all. So that's it. Okay. So that's it. We have done the storage. We have created the storage. We have created the network. Next we'll go and configure the storage and network. So we'll start Rac 7 machine. I'll pause the video, let it reboot. We'll log in as a root user. Okay, so once we are logged in, We'll start following this document. So the first thing that we need to do is install the required RPMs. So I'll go to application and terminal. If you see the instruction, these RPMs are located inside the operating system ISO. So I have to mount this operating system first in order to install these RPMs. You can see here a small CD drive CD symbol over here. So just right click on it, and this is my operating system.iso. If you don't see it listed over here, you can choose a disk image and you can locate it. So once you mount, you can go to media, the server location. So once we are in the CD server, I'll just copy this thing, paste it, let it install. So RPMs are installed. So apart from this RPM, we have one more RPM which you won't get inside the CD. You need to download this RPM separately, and then you have to install it. So you can download it in your laptop, and then you can copy from the laptop to your virtual machine, and then you can install it. However, in my case, if you remember, I have mounted one software.vdi file. I have mounted this file separately, which may not be the same case which may not be in your case. So next what I will do is I will just mount that software.vdi. Okay. So these steps are not specific to rack installation. You can ignore it. So this steps are specific to my system. Again, you need not to do all those things. So once I mounted this software.vdi, I get all the softwares required for the installation. So this is the RPM that we need to download separately and install it. So done. So we are done with RPM installation. Make sure that when you create your virtual machine, in the storage section you have one for CD drive. So remember, if you see my previous step, I have created one empty drive, and then I mounted the operating system.iso in this CD file. If you don't create an empty one, you cannot mount it. You have to reboot your system, and then you have to create it again. Okay, we move to the next step, and that's about creating some changing some of the Linux parameter files. So I will mute the video. So we are done with all the Linux parameter settings, and this is NTPD service. It is also running fine now. And then we will start creating the required Oracle group and users. Okay. Next is create the binary home. So we'll be having two homes over here. One is for the grid software and one is for the database software. So the grid one I will be using to install grid binaries, and the database one for database binaries. Provide the necessary privilege. Okay, so we are done with Oracle creation, Oracle ID and group creations, creating Oracle homes, setting up the Linux parameter files. So now we'll move to the next step, that is to set up the ASM disk. So remember we have added three VDIs, raw disks we have added. So let's clear this. Now let's go to dev and give lssd star. We see here 4 to 5 raw disk. One is SDA1, SDA is one raw disk, SDB, SDC, SDD, SDE. So total 5 raw disk we are seeing over here. We have SDA1 and SDA2. These are the partitions of SDA, and this is where our operating system is installed. Then we have SDE and SD1. This is specific to my system. Remember I have attached one more VDI, that is software VDI. So that is created in SDE and SDE1. Remaining SDB, SDC and SDD are our raw disks that are meant to be converted into ASM disk. So what we will be doing is we will be creating a partition for each of this raw device first, and then we will convert the partition into ASM disk. So we will give fdisk stb, give n p1 pw, stc, follow the same steps. So now if we check lssd star, we can see SDB1 is created, SDC1 is created, and SDD1 is created. Same thing is documented with the commands. All the commands are here. Next is we need to configure Oracle ASM. So what this command will take care is who will be the owner of the ASM drivers. So Oracle will be the owner. Who will be the group owner? DBA will be the group owner. Do you want to start the ASM drivers automatically when server reboots? Yes. And do you want to discover the ASM disks automatically when server reboots? Yes. So that's the configuration. Next we will initialize Oracle ASM. So the steps are mentioned over here. And when it is initialized, we are ready to create ASM disks out of the partitions raw devices. So Oracle ASM is a utility which help us do all these activities related to ASM disks. So Oracle ASM, if you give Oracle ASM enter, it will give you all the commands related to this. So we'll give Oracle ASM, and then we will use create disk ASM1 dev SDB1. So this is our first ASM disk, and SDB1 is the partition raw device. Give SDC1 and ASM2, SDT1, ASM3. Just for an example, I am taking three ASM disks, creating three ASM disks. You can add as many as possible. So I have added 3 raw disks, so I can create only 3. So now we are done with the ASM settings. We have set up the storage. Next we'll go move to the networking part. So I will go to System Administrator Network. Here we see two Ethernet cards over here. If you remember, in the virtual box we have set up two networks, adapter 1 and adapter 2, and that's why we are saying ETH0 and ETH1. So I'll click on ETH0, and I prefer to make it as a public. You can choose either one, but I will be creating ETH0 as a public network. So what I have to do is I will go to my laptop command prompt or terminal. I'll give ifconfig. If you are using Windows, you'll give ipconfig, and this is my laptop's IP address. So I will pick the subnet from here, and with the same subnet I will be creating another network, specifying another IP. So I will be give 10 as rack 7 192.168.0.10, and 20 I will give to rack 8. That we'll see later. And let this be 0.1. Okay. Now we'll configure ETH1. ETH1 is a private network, so anything we can give. I'm giving 10 10 10 10. This should be same, and this default gateway should be same. We'll press OK. Now if we go and give here, I'll clear the screen. If we give ifconfig, it will still show the old IP address. The new one won't be reflected here. Let us go and activate it. It's activated. Let us see. Still it is reflecting the old one. New values are not reflected. So what we have to do is we have to manually give this command, service network restart. So it will restart the network, and yes, we are done with network settings. I'll close this. So what's next in the document? Now we have to set up the host file based on the network IPs that we have created. So from this document I can create a new one. We're just replacing rack 5 with rack 7, replace all, and rack 6 with rack 8, replace all. Close. So this is our new host file. This is the IP address. These are the public IP address: 192.168.0.10 for rack 7, 0.20 for rack 8. This is my private network. This is the same IP address I have given, and this is my virtual IP, and this is my scan IP. So virtual and scan IP subnet will be same as public IP subnet. I'll be copying this and will store it into the host file. So that's all. We have done the host file settings. Now we are done with all the configurations for rack 7 machine. Now we have to do the same thing for rack 8. So instead of doing the same steps again over there, what I will be doing is I will shut down this rack 7 machine, and I will clone this rack 7 and name it as a rack 8. So I'll close it, give power off the machine. Make sure that you remove all those disks from here. except rack 7. Remove all the ASM disk. Just remove it. It will not delete the file, but just remove it from the library of this virtual machine. If you don't remove it, what it will do is it will take a copy of this disk, and it will create a new copy in rack 8, and that we don't want. So we just remove it. Now we can create a clone copy. Yeah, I'll pause the video. So rack 8 is created, and now we need to mount the ASM disk. So before you mount, what you should do is go to ASM78 and remove it from here also. Remove the entry from the entire virtual machine. So remove it from here. So once you remove it, it will give you another box asking whether you want to keep it or delete it. Do not press the delete button. Keep it. So it will just remove the entry from the library, but it will not delete the actual disk. So we'll remove it. Keep. Remove. Keep. Okay. Next we'll go to storage, rack 7, and we will add it. Choose existing disk. We'll add all the rack machines over here, rack 78, ASM 78. So all the three are added. For my purpose, I will add my software.vdi also. Okay. Now again go to virtual media manager. Select your disk. Click on modify and make it shareable. Do the same with all the three disks. Making it shareable will allow you to mount this disk into multiple virtual machine. So I will go to storage, click here, existing 78. All set. So we have set up two of the networks. I will just go and validate both the network settings are same or not. Bridged, allow all, bridged, allow all. Yeah. Now I'll start both the machines. Let the machines come up. So both the machines are rebooted. This is rack 7 and this is rack 8. So I will log into rack 7 as an Oracle user. And I will log into rack 8 also. So though we have done all the settings, but still there is one setting that we need to change for rack 8 is the network IPs, because we have made a copy from rack 7 though, so the network IPs will also be same. So I will just change it from 10 to 20. Double click on it and 10 to 20. Activate it. Service network restart. if config we get 192.168.0.20 10.10.10.20. We'll just ping the other node from here, that is rack 7, and see if we are getting the nope, we are not getting. So we'll ping rack 7 priv. Nope, we are not getting. So I will quickly go over here, go to network. Okay, if you come here, if you will notice that both adapters are inactive, so just activate it. Activate it. Now if we try it again, now we are getting the response, so it's fine now. So the same thing I will check from here also, if I am able to ping rack 8 or not. Rack 8 ERIV, we are getting the response. So that says our network configuration is correct. Once we are done with this, our next step is to set up the passwordless SSH connectivity in both the servers. So with Oracle user, I'll be following the document. Sorry. Make sure you are logged in as an Oracle user. So two keygens we are creating, one is RSA and one is DSA. Change the machine name over here. So here it is rack. We are running it from rack 7, so we will be giving rack 8 over here. This step need not to do in another node. Change it to rack 8. So the same steps are mentioned which needs to be executed in second node. Notice that the SSH commands are not here, so we need not to execute these commands in another node. Then from rack 1 we need to SCP the authorized key. Rack 8. Oracle. So now the passwordless setup is done. Now we'll move to now if you notice, like let us do this SSH rack 7. It will always ask you for a confirmation when you are logging in with a new name. So it will ask you yes or no for the first time. So I'll give yes. Now if I again give the same command, it won't ask it. So what we'll do is all the names that we have given in the host file, rack7.oracle.com, rack7 and the private ones, we'll just use those names once and remove the confirmation yes or no thing, so that it does not affect our any sorry for that automation query. So here is rack 8. last one, and that's all. Okay, so we are done. So we are done with the document, and next is we need to run execute run club verify. Okay, so we are done with the network setting, we are done with the storage setting, we are done with the Linux parameter file setting. Now we are ready to install grid clusterware, but before that we have to just make sure that all the prerequisites that we have done are perfect and we did not miss anything, we did not do anything wrong. So to check all this prerequisite, Oracle provide a script called run club verify.sh. So I will clear this. Once again I have to mount my software.vdi in order to access the softwares. I will repeat it again so that you don't get confused. This steps what I have done here, mounting this raw disk, is specific to my system. What you can do is you can download the software in your laptop and you can copy it in any location of your virtual box. Software. This is the software that you need to download. You will get in a zip file. Once you unzip it, you will get a grid directory. Inside the grid directory you will find the script. Running this script will tell you whether all the prerequisites are perfect or not. So this is the command to run the script. Make sure you give the correct machine name. I will redirect the output. It's gonna take 1 to 2 minutes of time. I'll pause the video. So now we can go and check the output of this file. Yeah. So if you look deep into this file, then it's more or less doing the same thing that we have done already. It's just verifying the things that we have done. So it will check in both the nodes. So it will check the connectivity, it will check the RPM installed in both the nodes, it will check the IP config and everything. So now you understand the importance of setting up a passwordless SSH between both the servers. Because when we run the club verify from rack 7, it automatically log into rack 8, fetch the information and bring it over here and verify it. So it will check the physical space, memory space, swap space, temp space, everything. It will check all the necessary RPMs are installed or not. We have made these changes in the parameter files of Linux configuration files, so it will check all those things. And mainly we need to look into this comment section. It should tell us passed or failed. So if everything is passed, then it's good. If there is anything failed, then definitely we need to look into that. So once at the end of this output file, it will give us a message like pre-check for the cluster service setup was successful. So if you get this message that tells like all the pre-steps were successful and we are good to go with the grid installation. So now we will be proceeding with the GUI installer. In the same location you will find a file run installer. So that's our Oracle Grid Infrastructure GUI installer. If you see this screen, you will see a blinking buttons down over here. Basically the next buttons and all are there are there is a bug with the screen resolution. So instead of going and fixing it out, what I will do is I will use my keyboard and I will use Alt N key to move to the next step. So you see the blinking next buttons. So I will use Alt N. I will select the default option, install and configure grid infrastructure for a cluster. I will select Alt N and move to the next step, typical installation, Alt N, and you may see a local host local domain over here. So if you get something like this, then what you do is close your installer, reboot your Rac 7 machine. I will reboot it, and I will restart it again. So I have rebooted my system, virtual machine, only one node, Rac 7. I'll go to the grid directory and I will invoke the run installer again. So that's our installer. I will give Alt N and move to the next step. Give Alt N, and now you can see here that instead of having localhost, you are getting rac7.oracle.com. Make sure you get it. Don't remove and add it again. You may encounter any future issue while doing the installation. Okay, so now we set up this page. It's asking for scan name. By default it is rac -cluster, but we have given some other name over here, that is rac scan. So you see the scan over here. In our host file the name is rac scan, so the same name we will be giving over here. The local node is automatically discovered, so I will be adding the next node, rac8.oracle.com, rac8 vip.oracle.com. Okay, so we have two more options over here. One is to check the SSH connectivity and identify network interface. So I will click on the SSH connectivity. Okay, so you have two options over here. One is test and one is setup. We have already done the setup manually, and I will also prefer to do it manually instead of doing it from GUI. So once the setup what we'll do is we'll give the Oracle password and we'll just check whether all the settings are correct or not. We have already checked it, but we'll do one more level of checking. Well, this is, yeah. So it says that passwordless SSH connectivity between the selected nodes already established, so we are fine with it. Next we'll go to the identify network interface. So we have public and private network, and we wanted ETH0 as a public and ETH1 as a private. That's how we configured it. By default it is able to identify it. In case if it is showing something else, then you can select from the drop down and assign the correct interface type to your adapters. Okay, give Alt N. Here we define the Oracle base, U01 app Oracle, and we define the grid home. So this is our grid home. We already created directory for this. We are creating ASM. If you click on this storage type, again this is display issue. So instead of that, just type from your keyboard ASM, and if you type A, it will select the automatic storage management. So then give any password for sys ASM, and let just a minute please. Yeah, so you can give any password for sys asm, and group will be the o install, and give alt n. It will validate these locations, and then it will proceed. It will tell you that the given password is not a recommended standard. You can just ignore it and proceed this way. Now because we have selected ASM, so we'll get this ASM disk group page. So you can see from this page we have 3 ASM disks, and these 3 are the one that we have created. So those are automatically listed over here. For some reason, if you don't see the list here, you can always click on the change discovery path and you can discover this ASM disk. But before doing that, make sure that you have installed this library, this RPM. So remember, in the beginning of the installation I have asked to download this RPM and install it separately. If you do not install this RPM, we won't be able to see this ASM disks over here. Now, any disk group name, by default it's data and I'm fine with it. I won't change it. If you want, you can change it. Now you can see a redundancy over here. So redundancy is all about mirroring. So if we click on the external means zero mirroring. So for external, one ASM disk is sufficient. For normal, there is one-way mirroring. For normal redundancy, one mirror copy will be created. So as per that logic, if we select 2 ASM disks, it should be sufficient. ASM1 will be mirror copy of ASM1 will be created in ASM2, and mirror of ASM2 will be created in ASM1. So 2 disks should be sufficient for normal redundancy. So with 2 disks, if I go to the next page, alt n, it will give an error, insufficient number of ASM disks selected. Now what's the reason? So you must be aware of the concept of voting disk. Now this is our first disk group. So by default, voting disk will be created in data disk group. Now voting disks are always odd in number. So the moment we select normal redundancy, it means the voting disk will be more than 1. And more than 1, it cannot be 2, it will be 3. It is odd in number. So in order to have 3 voting disks, we are required to have 3 ASM disks. So this condition is only if voting disk is inside this disk group. So in future, if we create another disk group and voting disk is not inside that disk group, for normal redundancy 2 ASM disk is sufficient. But if you have voting disk in this disk group, we need to have 3 ASM disk. Okay, so selecting 3, we'll move to the next step. Aura inventory directory will go with the default location. We'll give alt n. So once again, it will validate all the pre-checks, all the pre-steps, and if there is no error, it will move to the next step. So we are in the next step. So when you are in the summary page, alt n will not work because there is no next button, there is only finish button. Unfortunately, we are not able to see it here, so you can give alt f. So alt f will bring it to the next page where the actual installation starts. So if we see this installation page, what it will do is it will copy all the binaries to the local first, and then it will copy the binaries to the remote operation. So all these steps it will do in the remote operation also, remote node also. So this is another reason we must have a password-less SSH connectivity established between all the nodes. Fine, let the installation happen. There is no point of watching the progress bar. I'll pause the video. It will take around 15 minutes of time. Okay, so binaries are copied, and then we'll get a screen where we need to execute ora inst root.sh and root.sh in both the nodes. So the instructions are there on the screen. What we need to do is log in as a root and run the script in each node. So I will open another terminal. Root and yeah. So it will take around 1 to 2 minutes for this root.sh to complete. So root.sh is executed in rack 7, and we will be doing the same thing in rack 8. Login as root. Okay, let it execute. So it got executed over here also. So we are done executing both the scripts and both the nodes. So we can come back here, press OK, and then it will be installing few more utilities tools. So it will take another 5 minutes for this. I'll pause the video. All set. At the end you will get a error message like Oracle cluster verification utility failed, and that's fine, you can ignore it. It doesn't matter much. Press OK button and give Alt S, that is skip the error, and that's all. You are done with your installation. Press Alt N and your rack is installed. Press the close button. Alt C. To verify if everything is installed correctly, what you can do is first thing what we can do is ps-ef grep pmon. We will see plus asm1 in the first node, and grep pmon asm2 in the another node. So this is so asm instances are created. Now we will set up an environment using this asm instance, and then we'll give crsctl stat res-t. See the output, all the resources are running in both the nodes and all are online. So that says our rack installation is perfect. So guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope it will help you to set up a 2-node rack system. If you like it, give a thumbs up. Thanks again, have a good day.